A man and his co-worker were just chatting while driving. It turned out to be an accidental car accident. When John woke up from his coma, he found himself in the middle of the woods. His wallet and cell phone were gone, and the colleague who was driving had disappeared. The pain in her head made her pause to think about it. He stumbled out of the woods into a strange town. The pedestrians looked at him with disbelief. John braced himself and walked into a restaurant. He asked the front desk where this place was. When he found out exactly where it was, he fell to the ground and passed out. When he woke up again, he was in the hospital. The nurse told him he had multiple fractures and a concussion. Apparently he had been in a serious car accident, but the good news was that he would recover in a few days. John's memory is slowly coming back. He remembered the purpose of his trip with his colleagues was to find the two agents who had disappeared not long ago, but the accident happened before the investigation could begin. John asked the nurse if he had seen his colleagues, but the nurse regretted that his colleague had not been revived. John was devastated. He wanted to call his wife to inform her of his situation, but the nurse said the hospital did not have any communication devices because the noise of the ringing would affect the patient's rest. He told John to stay here and recuperate. The nurse turned and left the room, but as an agent he wouldn't believe the nurse's bullshit. He put on his clothes and was ready to leave. He realized he was the only patient in the hospital, but when he pressed the elevator, the nurse suddenly appeared behind him and stopped him. John ignored her and walked straight into the elevator. She advised John not to leave. Seeing John's determination, the nurse didn't try to stop him. Then he went into a bar and asked the waiter. He borrowed a phone to call his wife, but the call didn't go through. It went to a voicemail. He left a message for his wife and hung up. He then asked Amy for information about the two missing agents, but Amy said she had no recollection of them. But just as John was about to leave, Amy handed him a note. She told John it was her address. Now John had no cell phone and no money. If John needed help, he could find her at this place. But just as John was about to put the note away, he found a strange phrase written on the back. He didn't think much of it but turned and left the bar. But he didn't get far before he heard crickets in the bushes. He reached in and found a small speaker inside. The sound of crickets was playing on it. John was surprised by this strange sight. He thought it was a feature of the town, so he didn't give it a second thought. He found a hotel and slept through the morning, but he was awakened by a sharp knock at the door. It turned out that the owner of the guest house had come to collect his house. He was thrown out of his room with no money. He took the address Amy gave him out of his pocket, but when he arrived at Amy's house, he found it was a long deserted house. It didn't even look like it had been lived in. John called out to Amy and got no response. It seemed he'd been tricked when he pushed open the bedroom door, but was stunned by the scene in front of him.